Hi team! First of all, I'm sorry I can't be there with you. When you're watching it, I'm already in India. However, I'm super honored and excited and surprised to become a newcomer of the year. Thank you, Nova. And what's even more, I got this awesome personalized mug, which is just perfect. So cheers! And this is a short report from my season.
So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kinga. I grew up in Poland and I wandered around the world for a while, and finally I found my home in New Zealand, where I spent southern summers, and for northern summers I'm back in Europe. I've been flying for 3 years, and before I was a keen rock climber, skier, runner, but when I started paragliding, it just swept away everything else. I became a NOVA team pilot last September and actually started with the team meeting in Zillertal in October. And if you were there, you know it was an amazing weekend, awesome, emotional, just very special. Then I went to India for a couple of weeks, where I did some beautiful flying, including a few decent triangles in these amazing mountains. But first of all, I really got into wall beaving, and I decided that this is what I want to do more next season. Then I went back to New Zealand. In November, it's spring there, so time to work as we grow tropical water lilies. There are some incredibly beautiful and remote mountains on the South Island. This year, unfortunately, the weather was quite bad. However, I did some decent flying on the north. For example, I flew the North Island record flat triangle, and it's just 75k, but for this island, it's a lot, believe me. In New Zealand Nationals, flying my extra small mentor, I managed to become a New Zealand Women's Champion and 22nd overall. I also hold a New Zealand distance record from the previous year, so yeah, total domination. Mentor and I appeared on a cover of New Zealand free flying magazine, Airborne, and I also wrote an article to the magazine about becoming and being a NOVA team pilot. Back in Europe, I bought a vintage, just very old camper van and spent a couple of weeks making it cozy, and then my partner Chris came from New Zealand and we lived in our little mobile home for 4 months. We've been flying in the Alps. Actually, we crossed the Alps from south of France through Switzerland, Austria, Italy to Slovenia. It was such an awesome season for me. It's actually difficult to point out the best flights. For sure, I planned to fly from Grèce-en-Vercors to Annecy to buy a new helmet, then to sleep on the takeoff and fly back the next day. It was a bold plan. I've always wanted to fly from Colvert, and now to connect it with Annecy in a beautiful 150k flight as a part of a little Volbeef to buy a helmet, and to make it all work with not obvious weather forecast in inverted soup conditions. It's so cool to come back to this area after 2 years and see how much I've learned since the last time I was there. Another highlight of the season was a flight from French Chamonix to Swiss Grimsel Pass, 150k of rough, pure joy. This time the day was epic and still full on when I decided to land, but I desperately needed to pee, and this one time I didn't wear a nappy. Yeah, lesson learned. Another memorable flight took me 150k. I know, 150k seems to be my distance this season. So it took me from Austrian Wildkogel to Stein an der Enns. Clouds were growing, and last 50k I was zigzagging, trying not to get wet. Didn't quite succeed though. So what's new for me this year was flying open distance. At the beginning of my flying, I was so excited about triangles and closed circuits. It's also so much more convenient to come back to your car at the end of the day. However, this year I just set myself free and flew many open flights, which often became smaller or bigger Volbeefs, and actually always became adventures. I also went for a few planned Volbivs alone or with Chris, and it was always fun. Another thing I understood this year was that I don't need to fly competitions to progress. My heart has never been there anyway, but I've heard so many times that competitions teach you so much. So I paid in advance for a couple of competitions in Macedonia and Serbia, but at the last moment I just didn't go there. I remember sitting in front of my tent in Swiss Alps and realizing that this is my place, this is what I want, and flying competitions is just something very different. However, I flew one comp, pre-Worlds in Les Deux Alpes in France. I went there simply because it was held in stunning, rough mountains, and I was quite stoked to be second lady squeezed on podium between two Zinos. Last but not least, I would like to share with you my very personal little success from this year. Since I was a little girl, my mom's had a well-defined plan for my career and personal life, and I've always followed my own path, so she cried a lot. However, this year, for the first time, my mom said that apparently all my madness made sense, and even if my lifestyle is radically different to what she imagined, it's thrilling and exciting and interesting, and she's happy I follow my heart. Wow. And then she said she would love to visit me in Italy and see what all this paragliding is about. So she came. And you know, she's 73, but she slept with me in a van and even flew a tandem with my friend.
3 years ago I had a city life I didn't like, and a broken heart I couldn't heal, and a crawling depression which stopped me from eating and put me into severe anemia. Since then I found love. I fly 300 hours per year in the mountains on 3 continents. I have 2 summers per year, and even my mom accepted my lifestyle, which, by the way, I was sure would never happen. And now I've become not only a NOVA pilot, but even a newcomer of the year. Yay! I mean, how cool is that? So thank you so much, NOVA. It's such an awesome experience to be a part of NOVA family, and I would like to hug all of you guys. So have a great time there in Slovenia, and I hope to see you somewhere in the sky very soon. Fly far, stay safe, much love. Bye.